Keep up to date with the latest news and information from Propertymark.
Welcome to Propertymark Pulse in association with Rightmove. Wowee, has it been a busy few weeks? Lots and lots going on across the housing spectrum. And I've got Nathan Emerson with me. We're going to chat about everything that's going on. And of course, what's happened down in Downing Street. Andy Burnham's got the keys. Nathan, let's get straight to it. What are we expecting?
Obviously, Andy Burnham's come in now and taken over as the Prime Minister and practically made a completely clean sweep with his senior team. Obviously, housing is a big part and a focus for us, and how does that affect the sector? And I think some fairly interesting appointments, really. I think, obviously, he's brought Angela Rayner back to the job that she was doing before, obviously famous for being a main architect towards the work through on the renters' rights. And I think, obviously, we're going to see a furtherance of her thought process. And also, Andy Burnham's big part about we want to end homelessness will obviously feature quite highly in the thought process that she's doing. And let's not forget that is going to stretch across planning, building and resale properties. So I think we're going to see an awful lot. We're also aware, Angela had a lot of key takeaways from the Propertymark conference when she came there. We had a feeling that she was going to end up back in government, and it was very good to hear what her directions are, because that at least gives us the ability to think those things through, so it's not coming as a shock to the system, really. So she's coming back in. Steve Reed, unfortunately, has moved to one side, and I think it's fair to say he was quite instrumental in getting the work done on the home buying and selling process, which is underway at the moment. So we're just waiting for the all clear to make sure that that's continuing, but there's no reason to suspect it's not, and certainly officials are carrying on the work as though it is, as far as we're concerned. So the other thing, obviously, is Matthew Pennycook has stayed on as well, so that gives us consistency. The biggest issue when they keep swapping ministers around is we change directions, but Matthew Pennycook's still in role, and I think now he's going to be going to the cabinet meetings as well, so that hopefully means that we'll have some more clarity coming through sooner, and across both sales and lettings and future developments.
So we had that massive manifesto promise of 1.5 million new homes. Do we think that will happen realistically before 2029 as promised?
When you talk to a lot of the forums that we sit on, I don't think anybody's expecting that we're actually going to physically build 1.5 million homes. We'll fall well short of that. But I think the one thing everybody recognises is that changes are being made to the system in order to free up and create new building and new planning. So land is being made available, the planning system is being overhauled, and that will eventually start to permeate through. So that's the first thing. The second thing you've got to do is get people building, and you've got to get people to put a spade in the ground. That will be the challenge, because obviously financially costs for materials are at an all-time high, and the cost of labour is equally high. So if you're not careful, it can cost you more money to build the properties than you can realise back in the marketplace. So there'll be some fine balancing depending on regional pricing, I think.
So another aspect going through the Westminster cycle at the moment is the home buying and selling process. We all know it's very outdated, it's a bit Stone Age in areas, and there's plenty of scope for improvement. What are we expecting for consumers and for the sector? What do we need to happen here?
I think the key proposals there are where basically effectively they've pulled everything together to say, look, rather than just doing little piecemeal things, we want to just hit everything in one go to try and resolve it. So the UK has a very old land registry system, so we're not like other countries, Norway and places like that, where it's a lot newer and they can do a lot more with technology. We're still going through the process of digitising all of the old land registry documentation and records, and that hopefully should be continued and finished off in the next couple of years. So technology is going to form a big part of this. It's going to facilitate packs on properties. It's going to facilitate digital logbooks after a property purchase has been completed. It's going to be involved in material information. So it's going to form quite a large part of the reforms that we're looking to do, in addition to making sure that buyers in the first part have more information and more informed about the property they buy, therefore meaning they're aware of the conditions. There's a condition survey in there, there's all the upfront information that you would normally need in order to make that transactional decision. In theory, that should then help to reduce people, reducing offers, renegotiating, and also the potential chance of gazumping, because they're going to bring in effectively digital handshakes or reservation agreements. The reservation agreements will mean that there's a restriction on both the buyer and the seller to continue with the transaction unless they fall through for a certain prescribed reason. So less likely to see sales falling through unless it's for a prescribed reason. On top of that, they also want to go down the route of professionalising the sector. What does that mean? Well, several things they want to put in place. There's a consultation going out. The first consultation on home buying and selling and material information came back with an 80% response rate saying that agents should be qualified. The new consultation that is due to go out will be to say, well, okay, if that's what the case is, what's the appropriate level? Is it in line with ROPA at the level 3, or are we looking at something a little bit different? On top of that, they're looking to publish a non-statutory code of practice, which will be universal across all of the sector, effectively, making sure everybody's operating at the same level. And also, they're wanting to be in a position where they are ensuring that there is a joining of all of the different stakeholders, so solicitors, agents, surveyors, bankers, everybody, and their thoughts and processes over that is actually to go ahead and push for a property professionals charter, and effectively that will tie everybody into a badge, a logo that says we are committed to operating at this standard to deliver for the consumer.
And what do you actually think specifically that will mean for consumers? Enhanced rapport, trust, transparency? What exactly do you think it'll actually push forwards? I
think the proof is always going to be in the pudding with this, really. So I think the charter idea is more a case of saying, look, there's a level that you're being held to account for, and the code of practice is saying that you should operate to this standard all of the time. And the consumer confidence is very important. We need that to drive the economy, and at the end of the day, moving house is very expensive. A lot of money is lost when sales fall through, and in fact there's a whole economy that sits around falling through sales. So the whole idea is it shouldn't in today's age take so long to buy a house. It should be a fairly swift process, and there are countries in this world where you can buy and sell a house in a matter of days, whereas in the UK it can take 25, 26, 32 weeks depending on how you want to judge that, and that's from when you've agreed your sale. So the UK has a lot to catch up, but I think at the end of it could have quite an exciting thing. So if you take the land registry changes, not only are they digitising it, they want to bring in geospatial, which then takes us a leap further forward. So there's an awful lot in the mix. There's a lot of work to do. There was a lot of support for everything the government's doing through the actual consultations. I mean, a lot of the scores that came out against the various suggestions from government were quite high. So I think they've got consumer and they've got sector support for a lot of the changes that they're doing.
So if I were to describe this year as a year of two halves, I don't think it'll be too far off the mark. What do you think is coming up over the next 6 months for people who work in sales, lettings, auctioneering, and of course commercial as well? It's going to be probably an interesting year all up, isn't it?
From a sales point of view, and it's interesting, certain parts of the UK are feeding out that they're having a good active market, but we are seeing in certain areas squeezing on pricing, recalibration, shall I say. And obviously consumer confidence is massively powerful. We've got a new change of government, we've got a whole raft of new things going to come through, we've got obviously things that are happening in the Middle East, so I think we've got to be very, very mindful that consumer confidence could affect the sales market either way, really. If we've got a lot of tax rises coming in and we've got a lot of incentives and we're seeing higher oil prices on the forecourt, that will inevitably have an impact on the decisions that people make moving forward. But I think the UK housing market is fairly robust and strong, so the volume of transactions I think will stay within the normal range of parameters, but I think it could just be that little bit harder. From a lettings point of view, we're aware a lot of our members are saying that they have got slightly more stock available now and some of the prices aren't being quite achieved that they were. But I think we're also seeing the effect of renters' rights, where a lot of landlords haven't necessarily gone out and thinking about whether or not they should be increasing prices at the moment. They're just coming to an understanding where the new legislation beds down. Interestingly enough, a lot of members reporting they're getting new managed stock, not from brand new, buy-to-let purchases, I might add. Most of that is coming from self-managed landlords that are thinking this new set of legislation might just be a bit more difficult for me to deal with, and moving their stock into a managed environment. And a number of members have been successfully onboarding new landlords that way, which is obviously quite positive. I think from an auctions point of view, really, again, it is tough out there. I think it's tough for everybody. Let's not that down. And I think auctions is a particular market which can go absolutely bananas and have fantastic results, back-to-back sales, and can also see, equally a harder marketplace. But again, it is confidence, and a degree of those properties will need cash buying as well. So the auction world is tough. This is making sure you've got good quality lots at the moment. But I think for a lot of the auction houses, they are actually managing to do enough to keep themselves going okay in challenging conditions. Obviously, commercial is always tends to float itself through a longer period of time for most of the investment purchases in that side of things. So I think there's a race at the moment, a lot of people looking to try and convert commercial into part commercial, part residential. There's a lot of that work going on at the moment, and I think as more accommodation needs are required by the government, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a little bit more relaxation around what's happening with a lot of commercial properties in some of the town centres. There's definitely a drive to want to get town centres living again, and people in there, and maybe a bit more of that happy mixed environment use might encourage that.
And finally, every time I get you in this studio, Nathan, that I like a little bit of goss, a little bit of insight of what's going on and what you've got planned over the next 12, 24 months. Is there anything you can share with me?
A lot of gossip, but I'm not going to share it, Jonathan. I think our key focus at the moment, we are focusing on preparing ourselves ready for the work that the government's indicated they're doing, and making sure we can support our members through that. We will make sure they're fully protected and covered as ever, and we're working very hard to try and help government shape that legislation to be fit and proper as much as we humanly can do. Equally, it's preparing the way to make sure that, from a qualifications point of view, we're keeping all those qualifications refreshed. All of our new qualifications, obviously renters' rights, ready, and there's been a massive uptake in people wanting to get qualifications, and I think the government's indication that they're going to roll out qualifications and the consulting on that has kick-started a lot of people into it, and obviously having the industry benchmark qualification sort of does take away a lot of the worries for people. And equally, I think the most exciting thing I've got at the moment, which I'm really starting to see, is we released the Propertymark Connect platform finally, which is our direct instruction. That's Propertymark finding direct commercial instructions, just sending them out to members, and members being able to refer opportunities between each other. That platform is now launched. We're seeing referrals starting to go backwards and forwards, which is absolutely superb. And I'm looking forward to seeing our members just basically receiving listings directly from other members and from Propertymark. It's a free platform, it's there for members to use, and we will be pushing enhanced listings and business through from some very large corporate partners very shortly, so I'm really excited to see that taking shape.
And finally, can you give me a quick update on Company Advantage and what that brings to members?
This is an area where we have a lot of member response, where it's genuinely helped them. We're in a time when costs are rising, fees are not, and obviously the cost of employing staff has gone up exponentially and could rise further still. So whilst we weren't able to resolve that, what we were able to do is to use Propertymark's effective buying power and the weight of the numbers of members to make sure we put in place all of the core building blocks that people need around their companies, and to save phenomenal amounts of money for people, but also to create additional income streams. But also, more importantly, their core costs drastically reduced, practically gone away in many cases, and we've taken away a lot of the legislative burden and red tape where we're actually carrying that in-house. So it lets members just get on doing what they want to do, and we've got more to add into that as well. So these are all designed to be at cost. We're effectively negotiating hard. I use the analogy, if you go and buy one bottle of water and I go and buy 10,000, well, I'm going to get a cheaper price at 10,000. Wouldn't it be nice if I gave you your one bottle at the same price I paid for 10,000? That's what we're doing, and and it's there for members to take use of, and also make sure that they're capitalising on new revenue streams. It also provides all of the key pieces they need, all the legislative guidance, helplines, HR support, tax, VAT helplines, which believe it or not, until you've had a tax investigation, you think you don't need it. The minute you've got one, it's there. And so there's a whole raft of support, and that's going to continue to build out. We've got a load of exciting additions going into there within those existing price frameworks. So I'm really excited by that.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Nathan. We will catch up with you again very soon. This is Propertymark Pulse in association with Rightmove. As always, if you want to be a part of the conversation, simply fly me an email to studio@propertymark.co.uk, and I will catch up with you again in 2 weeks' time.